Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our regular council of Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. We have an agenda in front of us. Mr. Coleman, are there any additions or deletions from administration?
Nothing from administration this afternoon, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Looking for someone to move as presented. Councillor Balazar will. Comments or questions on the agenda? All in favor? Unanimous. On to number 3, adoption of the previous minutes. We have minutes of November 14th, 2023 regular council meeting and our 2024 budget meetings. Can we move those together or separately, Mr. Coleman?
Separately, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Looking for someone to move the November 14th, 2023 regular council meeting. Councillor Verdi, thank you very much. Comments, questions, errors, or omissions on those meeting minutes? I am seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. And then we had our 2024 budget meeting minutes. Looking for someone to move those. Councillor Wanchuk, thank you very much. Comments, questions, errors, or omissions on those meeting minutes? I am seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. On to 4A, which is the public presentation portion of our meeting. As per our council meeting procedure bylaws 6.3B, informal presentation shall be scheduled for regular council meeting at about 1:35, and the time period of the information presentations on the agenda shall be limited to 20 minutes. Individual presentations are limited to 5 minutes, and I have 2 registered speakers. I have for 1:30, you can come forward, Erica and Alain Lefebvre. And once you get started, ma'am, we will time you for 5 minutes. I will give you a 1-minute warning when you are nearly at your time.
Okay.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Honorable Mayor, members of Leduc County Council, friends and staff. My name is Erica Lefebvre, board member of the New Sarepta Historical Society and longtime Leduc County resident. I'm speaking on behalf of the New Sarepta Historical Society and members of the New Sarepta community. First of all, this week has been a sad one for a New Sarepta community as we heard of the recent passing of John Yardley Jones, New Sarepta's most ardent fan and international celebrity who dared to caricature 4 Canadian prime ministers, many politicians, international leaders, and even the British royal family. And now with his passing in our community, there is an outpouring of sadness and grief for the loss of our honorary mayor. To honor and remember our unique and beloved hero, I would like to ask for a moment of silence in this council. Today, and respectfully and in good faith, I address this council about a very important matter to the New Sarepta community, especially Division 1, 2, and 3, as well as Leduc County as a whole. That is why I would request a tiny bit of additional time for council to be aware of our concerns. On September 19th, 2023, Mr. Dean Oniski, Director of Community Services, contacted New Sarepta Historical Society about the Recreation and Parks Master Plan, which Council voted to be accepted in its entirety on September 12th, 2023. For the most part, it is an excellent plan. But we note that consultation with our community before the plan was accepted by Council would have helped. We were shocked and upset to see that the New Sarepta Yardley Jones Park concept plan called for the removal of the iconic Tire and Girdle Company building. When we expressed our concerns to Division Councillor Mr. Rick Smith, Division 1 Councillor Mr. Rick Smith, he suggested we present our case to Council. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for your excellent advice. The Recreation and Parks Master Plan calls the Tire and Girdle Company building a museum, quote, museum structure. Museums preserve history, culture, and legacy of a society. Why would we destroy it rather than make a substantial effort to preserve such an essential part of our history? Originally, the Tire and Girdle Company building existed only in the creative imagination of Yardley Jones. It appeared in many newspapers across the country and made New Sarepta famous. In the mid-1980s, it became a reality, built by 4 members of the New Sarepta village and community for the 25th anniversary of the historic 50-mile walk. Even today, people ask me if the Tire and Girdle Company building exists. Until now, I have been able to say yes. Today, now, more importantly than ever, this building is there to honor the Yardley Jones legacy and promotion of our little community. We remember Yardley Jones as a talented artist, gentleman par excellence, who brought so much joy and laughter to this world, made it a better place, and, quote, put New Sarepta on the map.
You're moving into your last minute. Thank you.
That is why the New Sarepta Historical Society requests that council reconsider the decision, that is, rescind the motion to accept the plan to remove this building from the Yardley Jones Park, with the support signatures of approximately 200 residents and former residents of New Sarepta community in Leduc County. We hope that our request will be accepted, that a way can be found to preserve this integral part of our history, and that we can work together on ways to make the building accessible to visitors and perhaps improving it by revising the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We hope that Leduc County Council will continue to engage with their residents about matters that concern us. One note, a professional architect, Mr. Case Prince of Maltby and Prince Architects, has examined the New Sarepta Museum. His conclusions overall are that the building is in good shape. It would be unfortunate with the history of the building and Yardley Jones that the building be demolished. See details and recommendations. I can show you this document.
If you can just wrap up, please.
Yes. Finally, as a personal longtime friend and fellow 50-mile walker with John Yardley Jones, I have another request. Would the council agree to place a book of condolences for John Yardley Jones in the Leduc County admin building? You can check out the obituary in last Saturday's Edmonton Journal. And that's, I respectfully submit this presentation.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was clear and to the point. Do I have any clarifying questions at this time from council? I am seeing none. We will take your, if you have something to provide in writing, if you can provide it to our clerk, we'd appreciate it. And we will get back to you through administration in the new year. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm on to my second registered presentation this afternoon, and that is Miss Bernand and Douglas and Dorothy Hollins. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council, Administration. It is my honor to welcome Douglas and Dorothy Hollins to Council today to acknowledge a very generous gift of land as a donation to Leduc County, 96.47 acres, and to thank them for their generous civic spirit and their commitment to community. Madam Mayor, I'll introduce you to the Hollins.
Like to come forward. You have, and again, on behalf of council, thank you very much for your generosity. We are really looking forward to how we can do some naturalization with that land there, bring it back to how it was. And please, if you have any words, we would appreciate.
I want to say thanks to the county for all of the years they helped us with things in the county and in that area where the land is. You're most welcome to have it. We're quite pleased to donate it, and if it can be returned to kind of a natural state, great.
Well, thank you. We actually have a small token on behalf of council and administration. So if you'd like to come on up here, council, we have a so very much typical, come on to the middle here. Very typical, I think photo, something you might have seen down in the flats there. Some beautiful light in there, and certainly we hope that you can find a place to hang that and remember our gratitude for your gift. Very good. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We still have time left in our public portion. Anyone else who'd like to address council on a matter that is not on the agenda can do so now. Second call. Third call. Hey, thank you very much. And with that, we're going to move on to, and please know that you can exit at this time while we're preparing for our next item, which is staff introductions. And we're going to be starting with Mr. Broadbent and then Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure for me to introduce Richard Patton to you. Richard Patton is a new grader operator for Leduc County. So very fortunate to have got Richard with 10 years experience from a neighboring municipality. So that's always a good thing. He's filling the vacancy of a retired grader operator, Gerald Pohl, who is 27 years with Leduc County. So Richard has already hit the ground running. He's just in that Antique Society area west of the airport and doing an exceptional job already. This upcoming summer, we will be putting Richard through our grader operator training, just like we do with all of our motor grader operators. So just to fine tune his skill. But with that, Madam Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce Richard Patton.
Welcome, Richard. Official and hopefully you can wear it inside while you're driving your grader and talking to the residents. So thank you, and we hope to have you for many, many months.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have Victor Mahoney here. He's our new peace officer that started a couple weeks back. Just read a little bit on him. Enforcement Services would like to welcome our newest peace officer, Victor Mahoney. Victor was born and raised in Red Deer, Alberta, where he graduated high school and became a member of the Canadian Armed Forces as a Canadian cadet instructor. Victor graduated from Lethbridge College with a criminal justice policing diploma, and then completed his Bachelor of Applied Arts degree in justice. He has a wealth of experience with working with vulnerable citizens suffering from mental illness, as well as those serving time in the Canadian correctional system. Victor completed his formal training with Alberta Justice as a correctional officer in 2020 and has served as an officer since that time. Victor is a leader in the community as a volunteer with the local Humane Society and the Optimist Club, supporting local youth projects. In his spare time, Victor enjoys teaching boxing, backpacking, camping, and learning the history of various cultures. Please join me in welcoming Victor.
Again, we wish you many years with the county. On to Mr. Bain.
Madam Chair, I would like to reintroduce a familiar face, Julie Visbar. As you will remember, Julie was previously with us as a planner in the long-range planning, regional long-range planning area. and for quite a long period of time. And then she went away for a little over a year to work with the city of Edmonton in the legislative services area. So she's back with us again in a senior planner role, being in the regional planning area as well. So you'll see her here pretty often, briefing council and giving information on the goings on at the EMRB table and giving some advice to council and yourself, Madam Chair, on meetings and agendas. And very happy to have Julie back with the team. She's been during her time with us, she was a very positive influence, a lot of good energy with the team, and very happy to have her back.
Welcome back, Julie. And I got to know Julie really well the first 4 years I was here working on the annexation file with the city of Edmonton. She was one of our great backbenchers and kind of kept us on the straight and narrow. So glad to have you back. On to staff recognitions. And I think we're starting here. For the press.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Gary Restow is our IT infrastructure analyst. He started with us December 10th of 2018. And I think over the past 5 years, Gary's responded to thousands of support tickets, built hundreds of computers, reset thousands of passwords, and done so with a smile on his face. So I think everyone knows Gary is very quick to respond and personable and passionate for what he does. He also has a passion for heavy metal music, which you might not know. And you'd be surprised to know how much heavy metal music there is for Christmas carols, which we found out over the years as well. Gary's a very integral part of the IT team. We're happy to have had him for 5 years, and we're hoping to have him for many more. Thank you, Gary.
Congratulations. Again, thank you for the 5 years and hope to have you for many.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. I get the opportunity to brag about Brooke Fair. She has been with Leduc County for 5 years. Her very first day, she got to come in and sit in budget deliberations. So it was, here's where you put your jacket, and then she sat here for 8 hours. So great way to kick off her career here. She, even though you may not see her very often, she's definitely always in the background to ensure that reports are accurate and looking good. She will do whatever it takes to get the job done and make sure her team is supported. She's assists other departments in anything that they need. She's an amazing asset to the county. And she is an incredibly dedicated, loyal, supportive, and hard worker who I am incredibly lucky to have on my team. So thank you so much, Brooke, for the last 5 years.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Brooke, and thank you for always having a smile on your face and a kind word. Whenever I stop to talk to her, there's always a kindness. So thank you for that. And I think that goes right through the organization. Okay. On to our first public hearing of the afternoon. So I will call to order. I will call up Mr. Evans and Mr. Ansaldo, who are going to be administration working on this. So my name is Merida Blanco, and I'll chair this public hearing, and all questions and comments shall be directed through me. Council is here to listen to the information presented and make a decision on the matter that is the subject of the hearing, which is the area structure plan's second and third readings as follows. Bylaw number 2123, WAM local area structure plan. Bylaw number 2223, Royal Cabrera local area structure plan. Bylaw number 2323, Northwest Saunders Lake area structure plan. This is a formal hearing and not a debate. Everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called on by myself, the chair. Each presenter must state his or her full name, address, and their interest in this matter, including whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given the opportunity to speak, and each presenter will be asked to sign in on a form located at the presenter table. Presenters are asked to stay within a 5-minute time limit on their presentation and are encouraged when speaking to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to the legislative coordinator. I will now call upon Mr. Ansaldo to introduce the subject of the hearing. Mr. Ansaldo?
Thank you very much. The hearing today, as noted, is with regards to bylaws 21, 22, and 23 of Leduc County to update the LASPs that are subordinate to the Nisku MEC. So we're updating plans. The Nisku MEC is, sorry, I shouldn't immediately jump to short form. The Nisku Major Employment Center Area Structure Plan. As you know, this is a bit of history, but as you know, in September of 2021, we adopted the Nisku MEC ASP, and this became the overarching plan to replace the North Major. The plans underneath that plan at the time were the WAM Local Area Structure Plan, the Royal Cabarra Local Area Structure Plan, the QE2 Local Area Structure Plan, and the Northwest Saunders Lake Area Structure Plan. As well, there is the forthcoming 510 ASP. With that update and the update to branding standards, the decision was made to bring the documents subordinate forward in time. And so they've been updated to represent the current standard in terms of what the infrastructure on the ground looks like. For instance, with the WAM, which was adopted, I believe, in 2007, it's been 16 years. Things look, what was said, this will happen, has then happened. So now we just want the document to represent what's actually there instead of being a bit of a guessing game if somebody wants to come in and say, do development in the east portion of that plan. The requirement, though, was that the original intent and vision of the plans be maintained, and that changes should only enhance clarity. Additionally, it isn't a full revision. There wasn't a robust public hearing or public engagement process. We aren't looking at taking the whole thing apart and starting again. With regards to changes since first reading, this is the only change that we had, which is that section 3.4.2 of the Northwest Saunders Lake Area Structure Plan is updated to reference that there are existing water and sanitary mains within the plan area. Previously, it stated there weren't any. I should also note that as of this morning, I received feedback from a member of the public. I was notified by this individual that they would be sending me comments. And this is also in regards to Northwest Saunders Lake. I have the comments here. The summary of them is that the gentleman is concerned that redevelopment within Nisku should possibly take priority over new development for commercial uses, especially near a lake or an environmental feature like that. He's not stridently opposed. He just feels that it's such a nice area. He isn't sure that it's really appropriate for it to be developed the way that it is. With regards to this project, we aren't contemplating a whole scale change like repealing the Northwest Saunders Lake, and so the intention is to maintain the way that the development concept that was approved in 2017.
Okay.
Should council proceed and update the bylaws, then they would be posted to the website and used as the guidance for development going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor for any clarifying questions related to the hearing. The changes in the bylaws. Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ansaldo, for summarizing the information you received today. Mr. Coleman, did we receive any additional information?
Nothing else, Madam Chair.
I see we have no registered speakers, and I am looking right now in our audience. I see nobody. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this? I'm going to call a second time. Anyone wanting to speak to the public hearing, and a third time? Seeing no one. With that, I assume you have no summary? Additional summary?
No,
That's it?
not at this time.
That's everything. All right. So with that, I will end our public hearing at 1:54 and open the floor for debate on the bylaws that are proposed. Looking for someone to put second reading on the floor. Counselor Belazer will put second reading on the floor. Comments, questions? Debate? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. And looking for a third reading then? Counselor Wanchuk will put his name to third reading. Comments, questions? I am seeing none, all in favor? Okay, so then we're on to bylaw 2223, which is Royal Cabarra Local Area Structure Plan, looking for second reading. Counselor Smith. Comments, questions, debate, all in favor? Unanimous. Third reading on bylaw 2223, which is the Royal Cabarra Area Structure Plan. Counselor Scobie, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. And finally, bylaw 2323 Northwest Saunders Lake Area Structure Plan, second reading. I will move second reading. Looking for comments, questions, debate. All in favor? Unanimous. And third reading, Council Lewis. Comments, questions, debate. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. We're not at 2 o'clock yet, which is the schedule for our next public hearing. Mr. Coleman.
Madam Chair, we do have an item that pertains to Ms. Bernand that was
I saw
the,
that.
so we could deal with that.
So we're going to go to 6A.
Actually, 4B.
4B.
There's the Hollins report,
Oh, I have
the recommendation.
not seeing that on my, I have staff introductions under 4B.
Or sorry, 4A, Madam Chair.
Okay. Miss, we're all, this report is actually, I'm sorry, I'm still, my agenda and your agenda aren't working together today. Ms. Bernand, what number do you have?
Well, the one I,
4A 135, the land acknowledgement. Is that
right,
it?
and we,
And
I guess,
subsequent
did that.
report.
We did
Sure.
that, but there's a report
Gotcha.
with the council
Okay.
recommendations.
You are,
Okay.
you were totally right, Mr. Coleman. I was looking at the public presentation piece. Ms. Bernand, the floor is yours to get us back on track.
All right. So the report name is Douglas and Dorothy Hollins Land Donation. The background is on November 14th, 2023, Leduc County Council approved the recommendation that Leduc County Council accept the land donation of 96.47 acres located southeast of 1950-24 west of the 4th, roll number 6322400. And upon receipt of a 2023 appraisal document and a phase 1 environmental report satisfactory to the county, provide the Hollins with a 2023 tax receipt for the fair market value of the land. The county has received the updated appraisal, phase 1 environmental report, and have executed the transfer documents, and registration of the land is in process. And the area is outlined there on the map. So the recommendation before you is that Leduc County Council accept the land donation of 96.47 acres located at southeast 1950-24-4, roll 6322400. And on behalf of all the residents of Leduc County, acknowledge the gift and thank Doug and Dorothy Hollins for their generosity and commitment to civic spirit and community.
Thank you very much. Looking for that recommendation to be moved. Yep, Councillor Lewis. So we have finished the environmental reports and we're started the registration of the transfer. Comments, questions? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And we're 2 o'clock. And we will move into our second public hearing. And I will call us to order. Oh, yeah, call us to order at 2 o'clock. And who is? Okay. So my name is Mayor DeBlanco, and I'll chair this public hearing, and all questions and comments will be directed through me. Council's here to listen to the information presented and make a decision on the matter that is the subject of this hearing, which is the removal of municipal reserve described as the following: Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R8, Roll 63100100606, 18th Avenue, Nisku. Plan 7920781, Block 3, Lot 9, MR, Roll 631001110, which is 608 18th Avenue, Nisku. Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R16, Roll 6310180, 609 19th Avenue, Nisku. And Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R17, Roll 6310190, 605 19th Avenue, Nisku. This is a formal hearing and not a debate. Anyone wishing to speak who is pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called upon by myself as chair. Each presenter must state his or her name, address, and their interest in this matter, including whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given an opportunity to speak. Each presenter is to sign in on the form located on the presenter table. Presenters are to stay within a 5-minute time limit of the presentation and are encouraged when speaking to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to the legislative coordinator. I will now call on the Manager of Assessment Services, Ms. Bernan, to introduce the subject of the hearing. Ms. Bernan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor DeBlanco, Council. So the report is the removal of the reserve designation from the lots as you listed and are in the report. I will go to the map, if we may, just so that we understand the various roles and how they're put out there. So the first one, roll 6310100, is that piece that is highlighted there that the back is located on. The following one to the right, 6310110, is a ball diamond. Then we go to the back right, 6310180, which is a treed lot, and then 6310190, which is another treed lot adjacent to the parcel. So the removal of the reserve designation would allow for greater flexibility in the use of these properties, but does not compel a sale or a change in the current utilization of these properties. On September 26, Council directed administration to advertise to remove the reserve designation from the 4 lots located at and adjacent to the Business Entrepreneur Center located in Nisku, previously known as the Nisku Recreation Center and described as previously suggested. Historically, these properties have been utilized for recreation purposes, and 4 out of the 6 properties in the area have a reserve designation. Leduc County has been utilizing the Business Entrepreneurs Center as a business incubator site, as well as housing the county's economic development offices. Currently, the site has a tenant, and there has been interest expressed in further tenancy options of that building. The highest and best use of the property may be for more outside leases to utilize the back space. In order for Leduc County to explore such options, we must remove the reserve designation from roll 6310100. So the first one that is noted. The other adjacent properties, as outlined on the map, also have reserve designations. And at this time, it may be suitable to remove the reserve designations from those properties as well in order to be able to entertain further growth potential on these county-owned properties. The removal of the reserve designation, again, does not compel the sale or for the current uses to change. It merely allows for greater flexibility of the use of that property. As per section 606 and 672 of the Municipal Government Act, a notice of public hearing was published at least once per week for 2 consecutive weeks in the Leduc Rep, November 24th and December 1st. Notification letters were also sent to the adjacent landowners on November 14th, and signs were posted on the property indicating the intent to remove municipal reserve designation. So all of the advertising requirements as per the Act have been complied with. The Assessment and Land Management Services Department received 5 calls to inquire about the purpose of the removal of the designation. 2 callers indicated that they supported the continued current use of the properties. 3 callers inquired about the possible future sale of the properties and if those properties would be publicly advertised for sale if council decided in future to sell the properties. 1 email has been received indicating support for the reserve designation to remain on the properties, and that email is attached. At the time of writing this report, 2 individuals have registered to speak at council at this public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. Any clarifying questions for Ms. Bernand? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. You had mentioned that signs were posted. Were they posted on all 4 properties or just at the Beck Center?
A large sign was posted at the rec center with this map on it. And then there was also a sign posted at the back, so on the north side of the 2 treed lots.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Bernand, I think you've used the comment twice in your presentation and it's in your report, and that's highest and best use. Can you explain what that means in terms of land and assessment?
So highest and best use would outline that property. Is it being used to its best potential? So highest and best use is a appraisal and assessment term. So the question is, for your consideration, is this current property used to its highest and best use? For the purposes of the BEC and being able to fully utilize that in lease properties, that would further that highest and best use concept, that it would operate at its maximum potential.
Thank you. Any further questions at this time for administration? I am seeing none. Mr. Coleman, did we receive any additional relevant correspondence?
Nothing additional, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, if I could ask administration to step back, we do have 2 registered speakers, and I will call on Chris English first. Chris English. Mr. Broadbent, could you see if there might be somebody out in the foyer, please? Thank you very much. There is no one out in that area waiting. So I will then call on Sylvia Chevere. Okay, if you could come forward, state your name for the record. We'll ask you to sign in when you have a minute there. And then you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and please be clear about whether you're in support or non-support. When you start speaking, we will start the timer for you.
So much pressure. Okay, I'm ready to go. So to be clear, I am not opposed to change. I am not opposing to change the designation at all. And I have always been one to embrace progress with open arms. For those of you who don't know me, I am one of the owners of Chartier Restaurant and Mother Bakery, which is now a tenant at the Beck. And you'd be hard pressed to find someone that's more ingrained in Leduc County as I am. My family has been in the Leduc County area for over 100 years, and my great-grandfather's farmstead is where EIA now calls home. And that farmstead was moved to where the Nisku McDonald's now sits before sitting east of Beaumont. So from farmland to tarmac and Big Mac, we've kind of embraced change as it has come to us. But I wanted to come today to ensure that the Beck and surrounding property has an advocate that passionately articulates the opportunity that lies within the 12-acre green space that's now up for debate. I was told that the goal of the process wasn't to liquidate the asset. And so it's great to hear that that's not part of the conversation. It's just to kind of find a way to maximize the use of the space. So I'm more versed in donuts than designations, so I can't really speak to the intricacies of that. But the Beck is a hidden gem that few, if any other industrial parks could say that they have. For anyone who has been in the trail system back there, you kind of forget that you're surrounded by oil and gas until you hear the faint beep of cranes in the background. And since reopening after it was closed down, the 1970s charm of the building has been rediscovered by a new generation that sees the wood beams and sunlit social space with complete admiration and awe. I'm not sure if anybody knew, but we actually had a thrifting market there over the weekend, and the space welcomed about 500 people in a single day. And I would say 99% of the people that we spoke to said, oh my God, I had no idea that this was here. This place is absolutely incredible. It feels like someone just plopped it down in the middle of nowhere. So growing our business into the Beck has been incredibly, business and life changing. And I am personally determined to do everything I can to see this unique space reach its fullest potential. And you have my full support in that. The economic development team, particularly Brianna Kumpula-Young, has been working relentlessly to bring a bigger vision of this space to life. There's an amazing opportunity for Leduc County to embrace agritourism, for example, in the Nisku area, celebrating the success of Nisku thanks to oil and gas while still paying tribute to the agricultural roots of our ancestors by using that 12 acres of green space. Really, since we've moved in there, we've had this thought process of what can we do to really celebrate the transition from using Nisku as soil to oil. This could be a hub for a food system. I see this vision, a destination for the region to connect to people to farms, agriculture, as well as food processing. Part of my personal mission is to gather other like-minded people who see this vision and see the potential to help council identify an innovative path forward for the space. It is going to take some time though, and it is going to take probably some help and resources. So I just hope that when decisions are being made for this moving forward past this designation change, that it's known that there are advocates and ambassadors who, you've got me on board. I'm on team Leduc County 100% and see an opportunity to do something bigger if we can just have the time.
You're on your last minute.
Okay. When you're deciding on the future of this area, I implore you to do so with the intention of protecting, because the potential that lies within the property is one that deserves full exploration. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the registered speaker? Clarifying questions? I am seeing none. Thank you very much for your time today to come and address us during our public hearing. I will call again for Chris English. Come forward, state your name. When you have a moment, sign the presenter's sheet there. And when you start speaking, we will start our timer at 5 minutes.
Hello, my name's Chris English, and I'm woefully ill prepared for this. I thought it was more of an information gathering session, and I actually thought it was online. So I was sitting in my office 10 minutes ago trying to get a link to a meeting. More than anything, I'm just looking for information as to what the purpose of the rezoning is. Obviously, we've been my family's owned the property across the street, and now LMC, General Partners, Link Suspensions of Canada, now owns that. I'm the managing director of the company. I absolutely do not want to see any more industrial across the street from us. There's enough industrial zoned property in Nisku. So yeah, I'm really here just for an information gathering thing and to speak my opposition of typically when I've seen things like that happen, there's already a plan and it's already underway. And at some point in the future, I'll be seeing an appeal process and I'll be steamrolled over because everything's already happened. That's generally the way, that's my experience with the county to date. So I just wanted to get involved a little bit and find out what the heck the plan is here, what's going on, what's driving this. So I don't know if that's a venue for that to get feedback or get questions answered.
This is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to speak to council, whether you're in support or not support. It is not an information gathering.
I guess it's tough to know whether I'm supportive because I don't know what the intention is. Does the rezoning allow for, is the intention of the rezoning to build new industrial properties across the street from us? I guess, I don't know. It's really not all that clear. So that's all I have to say. I guess I'll have to get more involved as information comes forth.
Thank you. Any questions for our speaker? Councillor Verdi? Of administration? No, we'll wait till we go back to administration. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Mr. English, you can step back. Thank you very much for your presentation. Anyone else who has not pre-registered to speak but would like to speak either for or against the removal of the municipal reserve designation? Second call. Third call, no one coming forward. Could I ask administration to come forward? Thank you. Are there any further questions for administration at this time? Thank you. Councillor Verdi.
I just want to clarify for the gentleman here, the removal of a designation does not mean rezoning, does it?
The current zoning is industrial on these properties. The removal of the designation does not mean that we must change the current use of it. And so if we look to the two lots to the left that are currently utilized as ball diamonds, they do not have a reserve designation, but they're being utilized in a recreation use, right? Recreational use.
Just a follow-up.
Mhm.
So it's still industrial zoning as of today.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I have Councillor Lewis and then Councillor Smith with questions for administration.
Thank you. Would any development that is proposed come to council for consideration, or is that something that the planning department would do without, I guess, council's input or public input for that matter?
Just maybe, I'll help out Ms. Bernan. What are the steps? Should the designation be removed today? What are the steps that would take us to where there might be a development happening?
So because Leduc County owns that land, then we would go through a development process, and that then council would be well aware of that impact. And we do not sell property without council's approval. So if we were looking to sell this property, this would come to council as well.
Did that help you? Okay. Councillor Smith?
Again, was really in favor of repurposing the building. My question is the usage of the building right now, is it permitted? And is it something that we need to clean up as we go? Because I'm very happy with the BEC being established, with our economic development people being in there and the business that has been there. And again, some of the comments made today in the public hearing about finding the best use that you spoke of and leveraging that. Maybe it's a value add agricultural area. Again, there's no plan. Would it be required then if we were to remove this designation to make sure that the tenants that fit there would require some changes to the land use?
So reserve designations on properties does limit the kind of use that we have on the use of the properties. And the intention is for those properties to be utilized by a municipality or a recreation department or that kind of thing. So we are adhering as the economic development department is housed there. Long-term leases of publicly municipally owned properties should not have a reserve designation.
Supplemental, go ahead, Councillor Smith.
So then to summarize, it would be an advantage to some of the good things that are going on to get them properly in a proper usage by removing this.
It would allow greater flexibility for those uses as the speaker earlier talked about in terms of further development of agritourism and that kind of thing. I'm going to ask Brad to add some comments.
Mr. White?
So thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. One of the things with removing a reserve designation is it does give us more of an opportunity with partnerships outside of municipalities. One of the things we found is when we were operating the Beck and looking for leases and we were going through legal channels, that was a recommendation to that reserve has a question mark attached to it. So looking forward to potential opportunities, as the speaker said, is that those areas, if we are going to get involved with partnerships, makes it a lot easier for us to do. And also from a financial perspective, any other groups or agencies or things like that that are looking at going through financing, when there's a reserve, it's almost like a bit of an uncertainty. And one thing we did find is when we were bringing in our two tenants, that was something that was identified by. So we have a very large parcel of land, about 30 acres, if you count all those lands together. So those lands do have a value to them. They are serviced, they are within the area. And as you mentioned, they're already zoned in that way, but it gives us an example of, options for moving forward. And that is what we were looking for, as options.
Thank you very much. Any further clarifying questions for administration at this time? I'm seeing no hands. Administration, do you have any closing comments?
Do not.
We do
Thank
not.
you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I will close our public hearing at 2:22 p.m. and open the floor for debate. Councillor Smith, and then I would like to add some comments for thought.
All right. Again, just listening to some of the comments in the hearing today and some clarification for myself through that process and the opportunities that I've seen that have occurred since we changed the use of the building from a money-losing rec center to maybe a stimulating area for people to gather with the natural space that is there. And again, some of the comments about entrepreneurs actually having opportunities to bring in, to leverage other like-minded people that could make that property probably a higher value use without tearing the trees down, but I guess leveraging what we have. So based on that information gathering and the speakers that talked about opportunities there today, I would definitely be in support of removing the designation so we have the flexibility to find entrepreneurs that don't want to pave it and put up a parking lot, but do want to find a usage for it that supplements beautiful downtown Nisku.
Thank you very much for those comments. When we first brought this up and started to talk about it as council, I was fairly against it. I very much believed that, having that green space there was the best thing we could possibly do. But after listening and learning a little bit about removing the designation, it doesn't mean we're going in tomorrow. There is no plan. There is no plan to go in there, sell it, or to develop anything currently by the county. But what I've learned from sitting in this chair for 10 years or so is that you can't wait until the opportunity is knocking on your door to just start to put things in place so that you can build or can create. And this is an example where I think by removing the designations, we're actually just getting more ready. It doesn't mean things are going to change overnight. And I believe wholeheartedly, from what I heard from one of the speakers, that whole notion of how do we build sort of an ag-based center in Nisku could be happening at the Beck. And it could be happening with the land that's developed there. It could be happening with another building that's being put there. But if we don't remove the designation and somebody shows up with a great idea that moves forward secondary ag production or something like that, we're not ready. So for me, this is a readiness piece, and the land belongs to the county. And so nothing can happen to that land until it comes to this council. And I know I have great trust that this council would look at every single opportunity critically, balancing the notion of that green space with what's the highest and best use. Because at some point, we're responsible to every single taxpayer in the county. And so I am in support of removing the designation. Like I said, it's been a bit of a pull for me to say that, but it is the right decision. It does set us up, as Councillor Smith said. And I would be happy to actually move the recommendation and put a motion on the floor so that council can begin that debate. And so with that, I will read out the recommendation. As per section 6751 of the Municipal Government Act, council directs the county manager to notify the registrar that the provisions of Part 17, Division 9 of the MGA have been compiled with, and requests the registrar to remove the designation of one or more of the municipal reserves from the county properties legally described as Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R8, Roll 6310100, Plan 7920781, Block 3, Lot 9, MR, Roll 6310110, Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R16, Roll 6310180, Plan 7520436, Block 3, Lot R17, Roll 6310190. And again, this is about being prepared, being flexible, and using the highest and best use of land that the county owns. The floor is now open for any comments or debate. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I will support these motions. We took a risk a few years ago and we actually closed the Nisku Rec Center, knowing it wasn't the best use for it at the time. And we've changed it into the Business Entrepreneur Center, and it's flourishing. And you can tell by the people that and the activities that we have going on there, how much it's needed in the area. There was careful consideration, even bringing this forward in the conversations that we all had. So I think going forward, this will be the best use for us to plan for the future and help businesses that need the help with the flexibility that this will offer.
Thank you. Any further comments, debate on the motion? I am seeing none. I will call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I think you are up again, Ms. Bernand. I'm on 6A, which is assessment services. Request adjustment of property taxes due to fire.
Thank you, Mayor DeBlanco. So the request for the adjustment due to fire for tax rolls 1098, 100 and 199, 2010. Recommendation before you is to approve the refund of the prorated portion of taxes to account for the time that the improvements destroyed by fire were not on the property, and calculated as follows. For tax roll 1098 100, that is $592.01. And for tax roll 199 2010, that's $252.43. So it is a loss of residence and garage due to fire. Section 347(1) of the Municipal Government Act allows council, if it considers equitable to do so, it may cancel or refund all or part of the taxes. It is at the discretion of council to prorate, refund, or defer taxes. The adjustment due to fire only applies to the improvements destroyed by the fire and does not apply to the land or any other unaffected improvements. There is no existing county policy regarding the adjustment of property taxes due to fire or other disaster. On July 27th of 2023, the resident and garage located at number 190, 24015 Highway 625 were completely destroyed by fire. On August 24th, 2023, the resident and garage located at 27549 Township Road 484 were completely destroyed by a fire. The prorated calculations are there for your reference.
Thank you very much. Questions for administration? Councillor Verdi?
Maybe just a comment. I totally understand and respect where this request is coming from, but your general home insurance would cover fire. So this is kind of a double dip, if you will.
Ms. Bernard?
That's through the chair. That has some different debate amongst my colleagues. And in fact, in our department, there's somebody who has a relative who is an insurance broker and says that no, unless you had some very special policy, it wouldn't actually include that. And I was speaking with a colleague who said, well, doesn't fire insurance cover that? And I said, well, no, I actually don't think it does. So I don't wish to debate that with you too much. I have not had to make such a claim, thankfully, but the information I do have says not all situations would maybe cover it.
But at bottom line, if we were paying taxes on a house and a garage and then the house and the garage disappeared, the assessment amount is different, correct?
The assessment amount will be different for next year, yes, but I cannot change the assessment. The assessment is a condition of the property as of December 31st for the following year. So that's why we do this through a tax refund process.
Any other questions, Council or motion? Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Just for clarification, so if any of these properties were conducting a business and had another improvement, they still continue to pay taxes on that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Is this a county initiated refund, or are these residents that had the fire coming to us and asking for this relief?
They have requested, yes.
Councillor Smith?
And further to that, I see we have no policy in place to deal with this, and they seem to come up several times a year going forward. In your opinion, would it be something that council should look at where due to a loss from fire, it's a policy that's just actually enacted, not having to come to council each time?
Through the chair, there has been some discussion about creating a policy of that. I guess we need to think about what, in the worst case scenario, what that might mean. And if we had such a policy, if a terrible fire were to go through, well, we might decide that we would like to look to the province for some support on that. I believe that they did some support in some of the major residential fires that have happened historically. So that's probably one of the reasons why we treat it case by case, situation by situation.
Okay. Any further questions? Looking for a motion to be put on the floor for debate. Councillor Belazer?
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we go with the recommendation that Leduc County approve the refund. It's bad enough that you lose your house and your garage and then have to pay the taxes on top of it. I know how I would feel, so I'm gonna move that we go with the recommendation.
All right. Okay, motion's on the floor to approve the refund of the prorated portion of taxes. I am seeing no hands for debate or questions, so I will call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bernand.
Thank you.
On to 6B. Michael, come on forward, and we're going to work on the bylaw for the council code of conduct and repeal bylaw 21-18. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you is the Council Code of Conduct bylaw. The recommendation is that Leduc County Council provide first, second, and third readings to adopt the Council Code of Bylaw, and that bylaw number 21-18 be repealed. I'll just follow the order of the report. In terms of the background, the Council Code of Conduct was adopted in July 2018. Council reviewed the draft Code of Council bylaw on October 24th at workshop and provided feedback. The feedback that you see in the track changes is from council and from legal review, and they're incorporated into the new draft. And you'll see the track changes there. The report will provide a high-level overview of the proposed changes and follows the order of the sections. And what I'll do is I won't go through the changes that were in the workshop. I'll go through the changes that were made because of legal review or council feedback, if that works for council. It'll be a little quicker that way. So please ask questions as we go along. So the first piece is under plain language convention. So throughout the whole bylaw, shalls were changed to musts, and this just follows plain language drafting conventions. Under definitions, the only changes were the definition of counselor that was provided by legal counsel. And also ethics commissioner added, I think accurately, the role of receive and assess the complaint. I'll just continue unless there's questions.
I'm seeing no hands. Continue on.
Great, thank you. I'll keep rolling. Rules of interpretation, section 4, page 2, there was no changes. Under ethics commissioner and list of facilitators, section 5, page 2, the following section was added from input from legal and ELT, as you need to appoint an ethics commissioner and approve a list of facilitators. So it was part that was missed in the bylaw when we originally gave it to workshop. This section requires appointment of ethics commissioner and approval of a list of facilitators annually at the organizational meeting. Representing the municipality, section 6, page 2, legal counsel recommended including wording to clarify that the focus of the code is on regulating code of conduct for counselors while carrying out duties, not when they're off duty or they're private, in their private life. So wording was taken out because of the subjective nature of the provisions would make it quite difficult to investigate a complaint. So any other pieces that were more subjective were taken out. Additionally, integrity, accountability, and transparency are dealt more concretely in other provisions in the bylaw. Under, question?
Sorry, I know that when we take our oath, we're never off duty, technically. So how would the off duty apply?
From legal counsel, they gave the recommendations, and in talking with legal counsel, that it's when you're doing your duties as a counselor. So if you're going to a public meeting, if you're having other duties, that's when it should apply. Now, not in your private life, in your private home. That should be your own business. So it's making that line if there's some private affairs, because from, I guess the perspective too is ethics commissioner, if something happens in the private life, it becomes very difficult to investigate. So this gives some clarity if this happens on your private affairs, that's not something that can be investigated. So it helps with the assessment if it's a complaint that's valid or not. So that was sort of the reasoning behind it, if that helps. Thank you. I'll go on to the next section, respecting the decision-making, section 8, page 3. So based upon legal advice, one provision that spoke to counselors approaching decision-making with an open mind that is capable of persuasion was taken out, as it would be difficult to reasonably investigate. Adherence to policies, procedures, and bylaws, section 9, page 3. A change was deleted as it was not mandated by the Code of Conduct elected officials regulation. So that was the line talking about establishing Parliament of Canada and Legislative of Alberta. Further to that, it may give people the mistaken impression that complaints regarding breach of provincial and federal legislation may be made to the Ethics Commissioner. So it provides that clarity on that area, and it keeps the jurisdiction where it should be. Respectful interactions with councillor, staff, and public and others, section 10, page 4. So the provisions in this section were changed to language that would be easier to investigate. The previous terms were value-based and aspirational and open to interpretation and could encourage complaints that would be exceedingly difficult to investigate. So previous 10.4 was also deleted in its entirety to add the word discriminatory in 10.3 to signal that human rights complaints will be dealt with by Human Rights Commission rather than by a complaint of the bylaw. So part of that was to clean up what should be a code of conduct and what's a human rights bylaw. And that was based upon legal feedback. The other piece that was changed, doesn't change the intent, was 10.4. The wording was changed to have a positive obligation. So to make it easier to read and put it in the positive light, if you will. Conflict of interest, section 12, page 5. The section on pecuniary interest was deleted to eliminate the possibility of a complaint being filed under the code with expectation that the Ethics Commissioner would decide whether a breach of pecuniary interest provisions has occurred. Such matters should be left to the court, and this provision is not necessary because the bylaw is intended to supplement existing statutory obligations. Section 12.1 was changed as per legal counsel's suggestion to make the statement easier to read.
So that means that if I believe someone is in breach of pecuniary interest or that it is legal, I have to get a individual lawyer and sue the other counselor? It's not going through the code of conduct?
Yeah, based upon the feedback from legal, that's what I'm gathering. If it's a pecuniary interest, you'd go to court, but county manager may have more information.
Yeah, so the way it would work is if it's pecuniary interest, whether it's a member of the public or members of council, you would have to seek a legal recourse through the courts. And so an example would be if it was a councillor, the rest of council could pass a motion to seek a court position on it and resolution that way. If it's members of the public, they would have to do the same thing. They would have to take that
Thank you for
process.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Under gifts and hospitality, the change was from $200 to $300. And that was based upon the feedback that we had, the typo that was a 2 instead of a 3. So under informal complaint process, the one change that was made there was change has a duty to should. As well, there was a line that was added to the section where it outlines that counselors should address the conduct directly with other counselor, and the section that was added, unless they believe do so would be causing them harm or compromise their safety. So that's just to make sure if it's something that compromises safety, you wouldn't go through the informal complaint process. And that was based upon feedback from legal on that. The next section, complaint submission process, section 20, page 7. A section was added based upon council feedback that requires the ethics commissioner to notify council and the county manager by confidential email that a complaint has been received. So based upon council's feedback, that was added in for the notification. The next section, assessment, section 21, page 8. The concepts are the concepts are the same for the section. The changes were made to the text upon legal advice to make this section clear. So that's section 21.2. Under facilitation, section 22, page 9, the change was to the time limit from 60 to 30 days. 30 days was seen as being a little bit more timely to deal with it. There's also a change that allows the Ethics Commissioner to facilitate the complaint if both parties consent, which follows the concept of making sure that if there are issues that you get a quick resolution. So if both parties are okay, the Ethics Commissioner would facilitate that. The other additional change made here was based upon legal feedback, was to simplify summarizing of the complaint and resolution reporting and making sure that the reporting was done through confidential email in terms of the outcome of facilitation. The next section, and we're getting very close, Council, formal investigation, section 23, page 10. So the section on statutory declaration was taken out as legal advice. It wasn't required. It's just an added step, if you will, that wasn't required. And there was one section added in the reporting on providing a summary of the reasons facilitation was inappropriate to resolve the conflict. So providing that rationale was added. And the last section is section 25, which is sanctions on page 11. As per legal counsel's advice, an additional section was added to allow counsel's ability to accept, change, or replace or reject the recommendations from the Ethics Commissioner. And a section that was deleted was also the list of types of sanctions. This section was taken out since the Ethics Commissioner is making the recommendation. It would seem unnecessary, as well as there's enough guidance that's provided under this section when imposing a sanction under section 25.4. There are no other changes. Those are changes that were made based upon legal review and council's feedback. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Any further questions on the council code of conduct bylaw? Councillor Smith.
I do have one. As I've gone through, I find there's a couple gray areas, one of them being that this is specifically for counselor's conduct and complaints brought forward by counselor. There's nowhere where it clearly indicates the public can't bring a complaint in. So that is a concern for me, that it's not indicated clearly that the public cannot bring forward this complaint. It does talk about the obligation that the public is entitled to the highest standards, that the public must be treated in this way. There's a real concern that somebody from the public can bring forward a complaint, and this document would allow that to happen because it's not clearly indicated that it is just a council to council. So that would be a reason, unless you can indicate to me where that is. I think that's a hole that would need to be changed before I could support it.
Hey, Michael, is there a place where Councillor Smith hasn't found that?
And my assumption is if it's only counselors that are able to do it, unless the public was named in the bylaw. I know we went through legal with it and they did ask the question, is the public allowed to provide the complaint? And they had other examples in there. In those example bylaws, it was explicitly stated that anyone could. So I'm assuming, but this is something we could definitely check out with legal.
Just before I take you, Mr. Coleman, is there a spot? And I'm just trying to look through the preamble to see if there's something that clearly, I thought we had talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't clearly state that a member of public can, but it says as council is the only ones that can
Council is the only one who
file a complaint. There's no intention of this bylaw to allow the public. There's other mechanisms that the public can use to resolve issues against a member of council. That is not what is contemplated for this bylaw.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
And as I've gone through, I don't specifically say where it's a counselor driven complaint within the bylaw. It states counselors can bring forward complaints and how they can do it. but it also talks about expectations. I'll just look at the paper that's up there. Third group of words down below, the public is entitled to expect the highest standards of conduct from councillors that is elected to council. So that indicates, and there's other comments about public engagement, but there's nowhere where it says this is a specific bylaw that allows a councillor to file a breach of code of conduct against another. It leaves that open. So again, in a court of law, if there's a gray area and that isn't clearly indicated, that means that a public could bring this forward, could legally challenge it. And that's not what we're trying to do here. The public has forms to complain against us through the government, through recall legislation, but I wouldn't be comfortable without clearly indicating that the public cannot bring forward, and what is not stated in this bylaw, the public cannot bring forward a complaint in this bylaw, but can use other forms. And it's not clearly indicated this is a councillor bylaw to lodge a complaint. There's items in it that indicate how a councillor can do it, but it doesn't exclusively say that this is a councillor complaint against another councillor specifically. There's room for the public to bring a complaint forward, and we go to court to decide what's going on with that.
Thank you. You may be looking for a referral motion though, but I have Ms. Klamosk. Is your microphone on?
I just want to highlight two specific sections in the bylaw that I do believe it states in terms of in the informal complaint and the formal complaint process. It outlines who can identify and initiate a complaint. So it does have specific terminology around it's any councillor who allegedly has identified or witnessed conduct by a councillor that they reasonably believe to be in contravention of this bylaw can address it in these ways. So there's no specific process identified within this code of conduct bylaw that allows the public to participate in this bylaw, because it specifically states that in order to initiate an informal or a formal complaint process, that all of the terminology within these sections speaks specifically around a councillor that brings a complaint forward and then the process that is followed. And there's no terminology that allows the public to actually initiate a complaint in this bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I agree with you. There is no wordage that does that, but there's also no wordage that says they can't. And again, when it's a legal document, just because it says there's nowhere to say they can't do it, there's nowhere to let them in, but you also have to weigh the other side of the fence that clearly identifies this is not a public complaint process. And I'm uncomfortable without that that's one sentence to discourage somebody from the public. So I look at the informal, it does talk about informal complaint process, which really isn't a complaint. It's a way of trying to talk your way through it. But as much as it doesn't say that they can do it, it also doesn't say that they can't or they can. So we're excluding both through assumptions, and that in a legal document opens it up for something larger than the Ethics Commission looking at it. So I think it's a whole without it clearly indicating in one of the sections that this is not, the public cannot bring forward a complaint within this bylaw against a councillor.
Councillor Smith, would you like to refer this back to administration to examine that? You certainly could do a referral motion. And that would give time for administration to check with legal, as well as see if it's worth putting a single comment like you suggested there.
Yes, I'd be much more comfortable if we could get an opinion on it and it could be clearly identified when the public goes through this bylaw that it's something that councillors use as their code of conduct to have formal investigations, not the public. And there's other areas that are clearly indicated within the Municipal Government Act. So refer back to administration to
clarify
the public's
code of conduct.
Yep.
Fair? Okay. Okay, so we have a referral motion on the floor. Any comments on the referral motion? All in favor? That's unanimous. So we will refer that back. Thank you very much. On to 6B1, which beginning of some policy approvals. We have IT and then road operations. So let's start with IT. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Before you is a recommendation that council approve the revised IT 01 Information Management Technology Policy. This policy was drafted first in 2019 November, and it was due to be reviewed in November of this year. We did take it to the Municipal Policy Review Committee in November 23rd. The review committee reviewed it, made no changes as submitted, and did refer it to council for approval. Both the track changes and non-track changes versions were included for your review.
Okay, just to Councillor Scobie, who's the chair of Municipal Policy Committee. Any comments on it, Councillor Scobie?
I think it's just mainly to bring it up to date. It was due for review, some clarification, wording adjustments, and other than that, it pretty much carried through as before.
Thank you. I would agree. It's pretty straightforward. And so I will put the motion on the floor that we approve the revised IT 01 Information Management and Technology Policy. Any further questions on that? Again, lots of language cleanup, making it a little bit easier to read, which we really appreciate. I am seeing no hands, so I will call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. On to 6C2 policy OP02 road use agreements. Mr. Broadbent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Before you, we have three policies. The first being OP02 road use agreements. So at the Municipal Policy Review Committee on November 23rd, the committee did review and revise the policy. So before you is the revised policy. Underneath the recommendation that was voted on November 23rd, we did make the suggested edits that the Municipal Policy Review Committee did recommend. So the suggested edits were to not specify commercial or residential in the policy standards, and also to increase the review period to that 2 to 4 years. So yeah, that is the first policy, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie.
For review and following pursuit of all the other reviews, 4-year term, a little bit of wording.
I'm going to support this policy. This is one of our most important policy when it comes to protecting our infrastructure. The road use agreement policy is hugely important, especially with our gravel road network and what we see with both industry and agriculture. And so I believe that this new version of the policy really cleans it up and it makes sense. It helps us ensure that those who are going to be putting our roads at risk actually will have a bond, will be held accountable, and be able to ensure that those roads, if they're damaged, will be dealt with. And for the person who's hauling a few loads here or there, it's not an onerous piece. So I think it's been really good edits on this to make it a lot easier to understand. And again, probably one of our more outward facing policies that the average person really has to understand if you're looking to get a road use agreement. Comments, questions, or looking for someone to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Balazar.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation that Leduc County Council approve the revised OP-02 road use agreement policy as recommended by the Municipal Policy Review Committee.
Motion's on the floor. Any further comments, questions, or debate? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. OP-06 road ban exemption permits for agriculture.
Thank you. Very similar process. So we did bring this policy and its minor revisions to Municipal Policy Review Committee on November 23rd. And we did make those minor suggested edits whereby this policy will be reviewed every 4 years unless there's a major change to the or a need to change the policy standards or the intent of the policy before council. So yeah, the policy is before you, Madam Mayor, Council.
Thank you. Councillor Scobie?
Yes, just again, a little bit of clarification, wording and the term in which we will be reviewing it. So pretty straightforward.
And again, a very important policy for some of our agricultural producers. Would you be interested in putting that motion on the floor, sir? If you put your microphone on, you could.
Get back to it here. There we go. I would move that Leduc County Council approves the revised OP06 road ban exemption permits for agriculture policy as recommended by the Municipal Policy Review Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or debate on that motion? I'm seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. And I believe this is your last one, Mr. Broadbent, PG 05.
Yes, and very similarly, and another very important policy. Our designated dust control policy PG 05 was reviewed before Municipal Policy Review Committee on November 23rd. And through conversation with the review committee, there were a couple changes suggested. So below the recommendation, Madam Mayor, from the 23rd Municipal Policy Review Committee meeting, the suggested changes was to clarify in policy standards number 5 that the county applies the dust control product for the road use agreement holder at a full cost recovery rate. The review period was also increased from 2 to 4 years. So it was important that the committee did include that as part of the policy standards, that it's clear and an outward facing policy that it is at the full cost recovery rate.
Any additional comments, Councillor Scobie?
No, not too much. This is just that, like you said, added clarifications in there where there's been some possibly misunderstanding wording, and pretty well does it.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate? Seeing none, I will put on the motion that I've lost it now. Leduc County Council approves a revised PG 05 designated dust control policy as recommended by the Municipal Policy Review Committee. Any further comments? Call the question. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Broadbent. On to 6C5 policy FP03 debt management from finance.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. I am here with the debt management policy. It has been revised from its previous state. So the debt management policy provides guidance on the utilization of debt within the county in a prudent and sustainable manner. So it did come forward to the Municipal Policy Committee on November 23rd. Any changes that were suggested there have now been integrated into this version. I didn't intend on going through the policy in its entirety. It has been updated for updated terminology. There was some additions of 6 definitions as well as a change in definition to debt. There was some change in the verbiage and the organization within the policy standard sections, an addition of section 2C for short-term debt. And finally, there was some changes in verbiage and organization to the debt limit section. So if we go down to 2C, there was that addition to short-term debt. So we are in a good financial position. However, this is a proactive measure to manage cash flows and bridge the gaps. So an example of when something like this would be used would be in the situation when COVID happened, if we were in a situation where we had to pay for a road project and didn't have adequate funds and quickly liquid. But we are not in that situation. This is a proactive measure for in this policy. And finally, in section 3, it looks a lot shorter than the last version, but it's the exact same. It's just using simpler terms. Essentially, it says that we do follow the MGA standards. However, in section C, it speaks to the contributed assets, developers, agreement and levies, insurance, and government transfers are excluded when we calculate what Leduc County will take on as debt. And that is because those particular forms of revenue are not consistent. So each year you can have very wide and varying amounts. So we remove those so that we're looking at the same type of consistent revenues. And that was the only big changes that I wanted to discuss here.
Thank you very much. Counselor Scobie, any further comments on debt policy, management policy?
Not a lot. She pretty well, she's covered all the changes that we made and why, and I mean, to where this is all going to be understandable. So that would makes it more suiting to our needs right now.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Smith?
Could I move that county council approve the debt management FP-03 policy?
You sure can. Any debate on that motion? I am seeing none. All in favor? It is unanimous. Just before we move into in-camera, just a thank you to administration for creating the Municipal Policy Review Committee. We have gone through a lot of policies. We've seen a lot of new policy, and good policy actually provides clear direction to administration. And I really truly believe it helps for our county to run more smoothly. So just a thank you to administration for bringing that policy or that committee forward for all the cool kids. With that, I'm going to ask Councillor Verdi will move us into our in-camera session. He will. All in favor? Thank you very much for joining us. We are coming out of our in-camera session. The only motion made in camera was by Councillor Balazer to come out of camera. We do have two pieces of business. However, the first one is related to the bridge file 57772 right-of-way purchase. I'm looking for Councillor Verdi to put that on the floor. Could I? Better? Yeah.
I would like to motion that administration complete the purchase of 0.12 acres of property as road right-of-way and obtaining 0.4 acres of temporary working space for the bridge replacement form Northeast Quarter 264927 for $4,800 and from Northwest Quarter 254927 west of the 4th for $4,500.
Thank you very much for putting the motion on the floor. All in favor? That's unanimous. And our second motion will be appointment of public members at large to the Leduc County Regional Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. Councillor Verdi?
I motion that council approve the following public members at large on the Leduc County Subdivision and Development Appeal Board for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2026. And those members are Mary Ann McDonald, Pat Rudiker, and Rick Thomas.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or debate on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. This is our last meeting before our Christmas break. So for everyone joining us today, we, on behalf of council, wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. Happy holiday season. Take some time to spend with your family and enjoy doing something that you love to do. So with that, we will be adjourned.